even though days can get hard, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to lash out sometimes, and it's okay to release what you need to release. That's totally normal because you are human. Just try not, just like try and see the bright side. Try not to lose hope on like your dreams and like your goals and everything down the road, because some of them do happen. So, so yeah.
There you go. He got me all choked up.
Hello and welcome to the Disrupt the Everyday podcast. We're here to help you navigate life while disrupting the status quo. Our discussions cover a number of topics relevant to everyday life. We discuss everything from relationships to entrepreneurship. We also engage in some difficult but important conversations. And now, here are your hosts, Brian and Tanya Hamilton.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Disrupt the Everyday podcast. Today we are joined by mother and daughter, Sherylee and Sheriauna. Ladies, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so today, and like every episode that we have, we always ask, we're going to start with your mom. Who is Sherylee?
Okay, so, well, I am a mom of three beautiful children. I would say my faith is very strong. I'm a believer. I'm an advocate. So I've always been somebody who's been a helper. And I think that's my passion, is like really helping other people and trying to find ways to kind of speak up and use my voice in different ways. I'm a communicator, so that's definitely something that I'm passionate about in all areas of my life, which my family and friends can tell you. And I'm also an author. So, I've written 2 children's books now, and I'm at a place in my life where I'm just really excited about the future.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. And Sheriauna, who are you?
Well, I am a daughter, and I am also a sister, and I'm also a student, which is fun. I am a competitive dancer, and I also love running track. I am a great person.
There you go. Well, thanks so much for being here. I know we're going to learn a lot today from you too. So the reason, there were so many different aspects of how I want this conversation to go, but I guess let's just start with Sheriauna, you just sharing a little bit about your disability that you were born with and how you have made that such a strong ability all at the same time.
Okay, so I am a below the elbow amputee, and throughout like mostly my childhood, it's been very hard. I don't remember every single thing that, like, all the incidents that happened or all the good parts or the bad parts and stuff, but when I was younger, it was harder to manage my feelings and how I dealt with certain situations. When I am older now, so I get to really pick and choose how I make the other person feel or how I make myself feel. And I'm not going to say it was easy, and I'm not going to say it is still easy, but I've definitely learned how to cope and handle different situations that I'm faced with. Yeah.
There you go. So you've also just, I guess, figured out, and I don't know at what age, but what you're really strong at. And it seems like there's a lot you have going on. So what age was that you realized that you had that competitive spirit in you?
I don't know if there's any really specific age. I think my mom would have to answer that question, but I just have always loved being really active and stuff. And also, like, I've loved to like sing, dance, and act when I was really young. So I think that from a young age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I would say, so like when she first started dancing, I literally just signed her up. She was 2 years old. I signed her up. I was like, oh, it'd be so cute, see her in a little ballet tutu or something. And it was convenient because they had the class after school at like on site. I was like, okay, she could just stay after school. I don't have to pick her up and drop her somewhere, etc. So I just thought it was convenient and it'd be cute. She took a love towards it. I wouldn't even say like, she took a love towards it. And after about 2 years of doing recreational dance, she asked, can she join the competitive team? And her dance teacher was like on board with it fully. And I'll never forget the first time that she actually was on stage dancing competitively. She came off stage and she's like, Mom, oh my gosh, that was amazing. Can I do it again? Can I do it again? Like just the costume, the hair, all the energy on stage. It was just immediate, an immediate connection she had with dance and that whole process of performance. That has kind of thankfully stayed with her to this point, because that's something that, Jeffrey and I, her dad, have always said, is that we will always encourage her, but never force her. Mm-hmm. Right? So, yeah. But she's been very competitive from a young age. So.
Okay. All right, now the one of the things I want to ask about is just some of the other athletic things that you've been involved with. So I know I saw a video of you, I think it was on Instagram, just banging out a whole bunch of push-ups, which again, coaching young boys basketball, you would have embarrassed, I think, our whole team with the amount of push-ups that you were able to do. So obviously this has been a big part of your life as well. Was there like a single incident that really made you have that love towards athletics, or was it just competing over time and, recognizing that you had a gift in this area?
I think just doing it all the time. I feel like, especially when I'm at school with my friends, just like picking up a football or soccer ball, just like playing, I love that. And I used to play soccer when I was really little, and I also run track and field, like I said. So I really like just being like athletic, and it's just super fun.
So it's just in you, which is great. And speaking of that, as parents, even like I believe it is our job, when we see that our kids have a gift or an strength in something, it is our job to help pull that out of them almost, right? Whether that be sign them up for something, or introduce them to somebody that's also into the same thing that they're passionate in. Sherylee, how did you, I know you shared about the dance part, but just in any other aspect of Sheriauna's, just growing up, how have you pulled that out of her?
I think it goes back even to when she was, I think she was like a little bit younger than 2. So we are connected with a rehabilitation hospital that that's where she gets her prosthetics made, and she has her OT and PT and stuff there that she has been seeing since she was about 18 months old. Okay. The social worker was like, oh, I noticed that you have her sleeve rolled up. Did anybody tell you to do that? Or, why do you do that? I said, well, like, why wouldn't I? Because it's easier for her to maneuver with her sleeve rolled up. And she's like, that's actually something that a lot of people may or may not do. And so I commend you for doing that, because what you're doing in that, something that you might think is insignificant, you're actually showing her that she has nothing to be ashamed of or hide. Right. And so I think that for me, I was just like, you know what, there's going to be no limitations, right? Because the only limitations that we have, and I know it might sound cliche, but is the ones a lot of times that we place on ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I never wanted to shelter her to the point of her not being able to integrate and be a part of, whatever childhood experience that she could have. And so I think that that's kind of where I came from and how I approached it. So, lots of kids, when you start out at 4 or 5 years old, what's the first thing you put your kids in? Soccer, right? So we said, hey, we're going to put her in soccer. And she was amazing. right? The coach was always like, "Oh, is Sheriauana coming today?" Whatever. And so, she just had that natural athleticism. And then, there was the dance and then track and all these other things. We are mindful sometimes of some of these sports that she does do, with respect to taking it to another level, because there are the realities of her disability are things like, imbalances in posture issues, repetitive strain injuries, carpal tunnel, like all those things. So we do monitor her, and her overuse or exertion with her limbs. But for the most part, if you can try it, see how it feels, adapt. That's a huge thing too. There's a lot of adaptability, and I think it also helps coaches. It helps teammates to also have that understanding when we're not separating all the time. We're actually kind of coming together and integrating different bodies and different people from different walks of life. It helps other people to grow, to learn, to improve and become better as well in their craft or whatever their expertise is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because, kids obviously, can be quite nasty sometimes, right? And, it's always the things that they physically can see that kids will call out, right? It's, sometimes even a learning disability that can pass or stuff like that. But it's if a child can see something, there's always one, if not more, that's going to call it out or say something. So, Sheriauana, how did you deal with that, especially like, when you were younger? And do you still find that you have to deal with that at this age?
So it was more so when I was younger, entering high school now. I was surprised, like on the first week or two, like nobody was like anything. There's still those like some people, but it's like it wasn't as bad. So I was so surprised, and I was like happy that I didn't have to really worry about it. But when I was younger, just the way I would handle it wasn't good. But that's also because I didn't know how to control my feelings. Like I would just like lash out and just like be so angry because it just would constantly happen, and I just didn't know how to stop it. It's not something I could like stop. So yeah, it was hard. Honestly, yeah. So just yes, it was very hard.
Fair enough. And mom, anything, that you could even share with, for parents out there, like how do we explain, different things to our kids when you see a peer at school? What would you say to a parent?
As a parent, it's hard because I mean, there are so many things that we worry about on a regular basis about how do we share this information with our child. Are we doing the right thing? Are we approaching it correctly, etc.? So the advice I would give to parents is like, curiosity is okay. I think it's important. We teach our children so much as when they're young, ask questions and be inquisitive, da, da, da. And then as they get older, it's kind of like, okay, be seen and not heard sometimes, whatever. I think that ideology is changing as we are coming into, the millennials are coming up into being parents. But it's a situation where it's okay to be curious. I think depending on the age of your child, there has to be a real conversation about, what, there are different people in the world. There are people that do not look like you or I, whether it's their skin color, their faith base, their physical disabilities or limitations, like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of different conversations to be had. And the more that we kind of normalize some of those conversations within reason based on age, I think that children are fine. Children get it. They actually do get it. And once you explain it to them, they're like, oh, okay. Like there are some kids who are kind of like, why is your arm like that, whatever. And we would just say, this is how she was born. This is who she is, but she can do pretty much anything that you can. Sometimes she might have to do it a little bit differently, but she this is who she is. And then they'd be like, okay, and then they go and play with her, right? You know, you do have those odd circumstances where it's very fascinating. And so in those moments, my mama bear comes out, and my first instinct is to protect her. And I'll, you know, I have come to people and I said, you know what, respectfully, can you please stop staring? Or, you know, I will actually sometimes ask the parent permission, like, you know, do you mind if I explain to them or whatever, or etc. If the parent, because parents feel uncomfortable too, right? In those situations, like they feel embarrassed because like, why is my child like staring at your child? Why, you know, why is my child not getting it and walking away? And then also like, what do I say in that particular moment to make you feel less less uncomfortable, but also to try to help educate my kid? Like there's so many things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just like you know, case by case in a way, but just having simple conversations. Like even you know, if Sheriauna were to see somebody, when we used to go to War Amps conferences, and the first time she went to one, she was like, I think it blew her mind that there were so many other people that were similar to her. And even in that, she's an amputee, but even her mind was blown. And so I had to then sit down and have a conversation with her about that. You know what I mean? And so it's just having those offline conversations so that they kind of, it becomes normal, right? Quote unquote.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, you know, I'm thinking to like times where we've been in the grocery store, right? And kids don't always have a filter. And it's not even that they're trying to be rude. Like, granted, you know, there are those times, you know, at school or playground where kids are just going to be rude. But on a everyday situation, yeah, at the grocery store, and one of the kids, you know, it's usually about like 1 to age 5 or like 2 to age 5, right? When they have no filter, they see somebody who looks different for whatever that reason may be. And you know, there's been more than one time where like one of the kids is like, why does that person look like this? And it's, of course, it's not quiet. Of course, it's not on this volume. It's like, and I'm just like, shh, like we'll deal with it later, you know? Because as the parent, like you don't, like for us, it's fine. It's just that that person, it looks different for whatever reason. But for a child, they are questioning because it's something they've never seen.
Yeah.
And to follow it up with like, okay, let me just explain it in the car, right? Or what have you, because you don't, it's like that at that point, then as the parent, we're getting embarrassed. The kid could care less.
Yeah.
But just like you said, just having those conversations, even as it comes up, right? And yeah, this, we don't know why, but this is why that person, or this may be why that person could be in that situation.
They don't know what they don't know, right? So we sometimes have to fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
You know, as they get older. And even with my 2 boys, right? Like she does not have the same hand as them, right? So even sometimes they, even though they see her every day, they love her, they know this is who she is, they have moments like, TT, are your nubbins gonna grow? Or like, you know, they ask questions because they're trying to figure it out and understand it. So, you know, it is what it is. And I'll tell you something too, a lot of times it's not just children, there's adults. And I think the adults, sometimes I think that's sometimes what gets me, because even if you may never have seen somebody that looks like her, there, I don't know if like there's an unspoken etiquette that we should have or have, where it's like, okay, you're curious, I've been there, you're curious, you take a double look, okay, keep it moving. You know what I mean? But sometimes, you know, that's when, once again, I have to kind of find that balance between understanding people's interest, because some people are actually like, you know, especially culturally, some people are very, West Indian people are very concerned. Are you okay, dear? Like how, you know, whatever. But, you know, and so we kind of have to understand where people are coming from, I guess, is I think that's what's helped me anyways. And I think as well for Sheriauana is just being a lot more understanding of where people are at and where they're coming from, and knowing that sometimes there's other things at play, not just her disability. So yeah.
Well, even on when we talk about adults as well, there's a lot of cognitive challenges maybe where they don't get those some of those unspoken some of those unspoken cues, right? So
Yeah.
so many things at play for sure.
I definitely say that we all have something, like you said, Tanya, we all have something. Some people just, it's more visible than others.
Yeah.
I think everybody has their own DNA, unique DNA imprint. We're all imperfectly perfect.
Yeah.
And so my thing just might be like, I have a, a little bit of a lazy eye, but it's not something that impedes me to the point where it's as visible that somebody can be like, oh, look at you, right? So we all have something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing that we want to talk about as well is, Sherylee, the writing that you've kind of embarked on. So can we talk about the books?
Sure, we can. So I have 2 books currently, and I think even that in of itself, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm actually a legitimate author, like, right? Because I think as time is passing and things are changing with just social media, self-publishing, people changing careers, 2 or 3 times in their lifetime, it's becoming something where, once again, I'm not going to limit myself. I have an ability. I've always been a writer. I've been a communicator. I just never, that wasn't my occupation, right? And had I taken the advice of my grade 8 teacher, I might have found this path a little bit sooner, but I was so focused on another path that I kind of put the creative part of me to rest for a bit. So how the book just came about, once again, as Sheriauana said, she was struggling a lot emotionally with, literally, she steps out the door and in a day she could get, if we went to the mall or we went to go to eat at a restaurant, several people staring, questioning all this stuff. And so it's emotionally taxing, right? And so it got to a point where sometimes she would just get really frustrated. And I said, how, and I was getting tired too, because I was always trying to stop and talk and educate people on disability awareness and, inclusion and, can we all just understand people and, we're all different, but we're all the same kind of thing. And I was like, I can't manage this every single day, 5-6 times a day. I'm never going to get home. So I said, okay, what can I do to hopefully start a conversation with children specifically and their parents or educators in their life? And so I just started writing, and I created this story which was true to Sheriauana's experience, and I put it in a drawer. And just over a couple of years, eventually things just came together, and I said, you know what, this is going to be the year. And I set that intention. I'm going to publish this book. And so I managed to do that in 2017. And just as a way to really help people have a little bit of a conversation and say, you know what, this is what a disability is. This is what it is to be a congenital amputee, because there's different types of amputees and limb differences in the community as well. But these are some of the emotions that Sheriauana may have experienced. But guess what? I can still play with you. I still want to be your friend. And at the end of it, can we all just be a little bit more kind and understanding to one another, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the feedback was like amazing, because the message, I think, goes beyond just specifically her disability. It goes to the fact that children can relate. And I would hear stories from people in the limb difference community about their children or what they've experienced with the book. And like, my daughter was afraid to talk in her class, but when she got your book, she was so proud to bring your book to school and show her teacher and her friends, because wow, there's a book that people look like her in the book, and just that representation. And then I had other children that would say, yeah, I have a friend who, has this thing. I had a friend whose daughter has a birth defect. And so, I don't really like that word, but for lack of better words. And so they're able to relate in some way. So I think it's just a relatable message outside of the story of Sheriauana. And then now the second book is just talking about the theme is more so about just overcoming obstacles, perseverance, understanding, your capabilities, and we can all do things. Just the way that each of us does it may look a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to have these books in classrooms, in homes, right? To start that conversation, to have it so that, like you said, sometimes it's just that kids don't know. So to even have it out there before they ever interact with somebody that they would maybe question something, right? Just to already be there and part of our parenting, our teaching, and all that kind of stuff. So good for you.
Thank you.
To start that off.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing too, because you said there was a lot of these interactions where, you know, you said it was just getting unmanageable. I guess maybe it's cutting down on those. Maybe you pull the book out of a backpack or something and you make that sales pitch right on the spot, right?
I walk with bookmarks and say, you know what? Because I think it was a couple of months ago, we were in the mall, our local mall, and we're in a store, and there was another little girl sharing it. It's it's like there's a synergy. Like they just, oh my gosh, there's somebody with an amputee with a limb difference, right? And so she just saw this little girl, and she's like, she's an amputee like me. She has the same arm, right? Because statistically, I think girls normally have on the same side, like there's a higher percentage on the left side. So and they were also I think they were of African descent, and so they were in there, and I said, do you want to go talk to her? Because also to Sheriauana, I find she's very sensitive to other amputees, kind of understanding that experience of like people staring and kind of invading your space sometimes. So she doesn't want to overstep with other people who have a limb difference as well, even though they have a commonality. So I said, do you want to go talk to her or whatever? And she's like, yeah, because I think she was about 3 years old, the little girl. And so we walked up, and they were kind of like, why are these people coming up to us? But then eventually they realized that she had a limb difference. And so the friend was like, oh my gosh, look. And the little girl's face like just lit up when she saw Sheriauana, and the mom was like, oh my gosh, God bless you for coming and talking to me. You know, you're beautiful and everything. And I said, yeah, go on my Instagram. And whatever.
She obviously didn't say it like that.
I didn't say that. No, yeah. But I just like, it's just a way to connect because I want people to know that there is a resource, right? Because the thing too, especially for people of color with disabilities, the information or the representation is even smaller, right? And so that is something that's really big for me as well. When Sheriauana was younger, she'd always want a Barbie. She was into Barbies, and she always wanted a Barbie that looked like her. She's like, why can't the Barbie have hair like me? Why can't the Barbie have an arm like me? And I, what do you say as a parent, So when she was a couple years younger, when the book first was published, she was like so over the moon, like, wow, oh my gosh, it looks like me. I said, Sheriauana, it is you. Oh my gosh, it's me. So it's just, so when we do meet families or see people, I'm really big on promoting it, not for self-promotion of myself, but the message I think is so important. And just to bring that awareness to people.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And I think it's for any of us, right? We always want to see somebody that represents us, in paper, for girls and a Barbie doll, like I totally get that. So I love that part. Now, Brian typically asks these questions of like, what would you tell yourself? So I'm going to ask this question today. So Sheriauana, you're 15 years old now. So what would you tell your 8-year-old self about where you would be down the road? So in those days when you were in grade school and, you were just having a hard time with these peers and you maybe felt less than, what would you tell yourself about where you would end up?
I would just say, just hold on, it gets better. Just like, even though days can get hard, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to lash out sometimes, and it's okay to release what you need to release. That's totally normal because you are human. Just try not just like try and see the bright side. Try not to lose hope on like your dreams and like your goals and everything down the road, because some of them do happen. So, yeah.
There you go. He got me all choked up.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, listening to her, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, you got to take the next
No,
question.
yeah,
Well,
no.
put myself together.
I don't. I'm holding it in. So
I know. I'm like, okay, mom is holding it in.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting lump in my throat here.
Okay.
Just to see where she's come from, and she's always been confident, but just to see how she's really found her voice even more, just through her own advocacy and being an ambassador for people, and like the goals that she has. She's passionate about performing arts. But for her, it's about being on stage and entertaining people. But one of her biggest things, which she's not gonna say, so I'm gonna say, is to represent, to make sure people know that yes, I have a limb difference, I'm an amputee, but I can do this. And one of her biggest things is I'll take roles that is like amputee girl or whatever it is, or disabled girl, but I want to get to a place in my career where I am the leading character, the main character, and it has nothing to do with my disability. I just happen to have that thing, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't define the character. And so I think that like that is something that really drives her. And so that's why like I'm super proud.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, I'm going to put the same question out for you, Sherylee. So if you could go back to 15 years ago when Sheriauna was just born, you were able to again go in a time machine and have a conversation with yourself. What would you share with Sherylee 15 years ago?
Ooh, what would I share with Sherylee? Well, I would say that you can do this. I would say to her, you can do this. It's not going to always be easy. And so I'm just thinking something similar to her is like, you know what, you are gonna have certain emotions and feelings, but you need to just continue to nurture and encourage her. And she'll be fine. She will be fine. Because I think that was my biggest fear 15 years ago, sorry. So, she will be okay.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I mean, as parents, right, we want to be that protector. It doesn't matter, but I think there's a little bit more, I mean, I guess I'm like for, parents, in your situation, sometimes it's like you want to hold on even just a little harder and longer. You want to be there and make sure that if your child does need some protection, you're there to speak to these kids and stuff like that, right? So I mean, I think that's any parent, but yeah. Oh, this has been so nice. Now, Sheriauana, you're 15, so that's grade 10.
Yeah,
grade 10. Okay, so do you know or have any ideas of what you want to do when you're done high school?
I definitely want to go straight into acting and like just try to pursue acting and dancing and singing and stuff. Like I just really want to be a performer.
Okay.
It's so bad. So I think that's just what I want to focus on.
Okay, I love that. And see, look at that. I don't know how many other interviews you've done, but this is another one you can put in your backpack to be like, it's just going to get you ready for when all these people are interviewing you down the road.
Now, another thing just for parents, when obviously when you're dealing with a challenge that's kind of unique to you, there are people out there who are working with people with similar challenges. So, when you talk about the OTs that Sheriauana has worked with throughout her life, would it be safe to assume that they offer different resources that were helpful as a parent, or even for you, Sheriauana? Is that a safe assumption?
I will say yes. So the team that she has around her, and even just War Amps, they have a lot of resources. So because I think, technology as well, because we knew prior to actually me giving birth that she was her left arm wasn't fully developed. I kind of had a head start, if you want to call it.
Mm.
So I was able to start to do some of that research and everything like that. Obviously, over time, things have really gone forward with once again, social media, just more accessibility to information and connecting with people in that community globally really helps as well, because you can have those conversations about, what kind of prosthetics do you guys have? What kind of funding do you have here? Can she get an adapted steering wheel? Because now we're looking at driver's license, so all of these conversations. And so her team that she originally had from when she was a baby up to now, amazing. And they do provide lots of supports and resources. And then our community just continues to grow as she herself now kind of takes her steps independently and develops her own relationships with other amputees as well. So
Awesome.
go ahead. What are you
No,
going
I
to
wasn't
say?
gonna say anything. It just was right out of my mouth.
Just as we wrap things up here, for anybody who wants to reach out, who wants to get the book, who just wants to learn more, what are the best ways to connect with you?
Best way would be either through the website, which is www.iamsheriauana.ca, or Instagram at Am Sheriauana. Twitter also at Am Sheriauana.
All right.
Great. And we will have all of that up for everybody who's listening. So ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. And as we say, for helping us disrupt the everyday.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. You both are amazing.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Disrupt the Everyday podcast. For more ways to listen, connect with us on social media. To be a guest or to partner with us, check out our link tree at Disrupt the Everyday. Join us next time for more ways to disrupt the everyday.